Hey there, welcome to the garden. Today I have got my pruners out here and I'm going to get after a little bit of kind of strategic pruning in the garden. I want to check on the tomatoes, make sure they're not getting too overgrown, and get them staked up the arch trellis a bit more. I'm going to do a little bit of pruning to the squash because I'm seeing that it's starting to choke out some of my flowers over in that bed right there. And I need to plant a milkweed and do a couple things just to make sure that, basically to make sure the garden is staying in line and keeping on top of it. So I'm gonna take you right over here to the tomatoes and let's get them staked up on the arch trellis. They are growing like weeds. Oh my gosh. So last week I did like a full garden week, 5 days in the garden. You saw where they were at in that video, and it's been a few days now because we've had actually a lot of smoke from the fires up in Canada, so I haven't really been out in the garden for the last few days, which is part of why everything is looking so overgrown. It was really odd to be stuck inside this time of year, and I feel like, you know, the garden just started going wild and started blooming while I wasn't out here taking care of it. So the tomatoes have grown just a ton. Let me show you where they're at. Okay, so here's the arch trellis. Let me come around and I'll show you how it looks. Getting pretty full. There's the clematis, and then the tomatoes are almost as tall as the clematis already. So I don't know, look at this. So since, gosh, it's only been I think maybe a week, and it's grown at least 10 days, 10 days. It's grown all the way up here. Crazy. They're just going totally wild and starting to set fruit. So I do want to come in and make sure I've got everything wound around the bars. I just kind of like weave them through the bars. That's basically how I trellis them. And I found last year that they held really well. I didn't have to put any additional kind of like staking until like later in the season. I tied a few of the stems up, but I really didn't have to do much of that. You do have to just come in early enough though that I can still bend them and get them under the next rung, and then they'll grow up to the next one, you know, in a couple weeks. So I am going to come in here and kind of look. I gotta decide if I need to take out any of these like suckers. I do want it to be pretty full on this trellis, so I'm not taking out too many, but I am going to come in and snip out a few of like the lower leaves here. Like this leaf is coming out and it's getting into my phlox, which I don't really want that to be interfering, you know, with the phlox. So I'm just going to come in with my snippers and just trim that leaf out, and it just gives a little bit of air to these lower plants. Because we've got such a dense planting situation, I kind of have to manage that. And while I'm over here, let's deadhead the Credible sunflowers. Take that off. I don't think you have to deadhead these, but it just makes it look nicer, you know, to take some of those branches off. Oh, I'm gonna do a full garden tour next, but look at these apple blossom snapdragons. They're so pretty. So this is one of the leaves of the squash that I do want to take out because it is on top of the gomphrena, and we should remove that just to give a little bit more air for the gomphrena, and that won't cause a problem to the squash. That squash does not need that extra leaf there. And then over here on this side of the trellis, so these are there's some Juliet tomatoes in here, I believe maybe some sun golds. I have to go back to the video where I planted these and see, but I've just got to make sure that I'm following how I'm leaving them. And then we've got these like lower branches, so it all looks pretty and full from right here, but then when you get in, you start to see, okay, you know, there are some zinnias in here and a sunflower that's poking through. Any of these lower zinnias I'm not going to worry about with the squash. They're just going to have to fight. But like these lower tomato branches, although they look healthy now, they're not going to stay healthy, and they aren't really doing the plant any good. All they're really doing is serving to shade the snapdragons, which I want to make sure that there's room for these beautiful apple blossom snapdragons because they are so gorgeous. And I started these babies from seed in, I think, maybe January. And then this is, let's see, is that a sucker or a different tomato plant? Okay, this is another sucker. I may, should I prune it off? This is when the big decisions come, to prune or not to prune. I think I'm gonna leave that one for now and let it grow up. I do want this to be a really full trellis. I don't want it to be, you know, sparse. So I'm gonna let it be pretty abundant. I should also get some twine now and go ahead and tie up my other tomatoes that are growing along the fence line because they've started to get tall as well. The tomatoes are just taking off. They're getting so tall. Oh, so many fun things happening out here. But that looks so much better, more open. And like this leaf here, I can take that off. And that just gives a little bit more room for all of these guys. Just kind of air it out a little bit. Let's see over here what we need to do pruning wise. I think this is a weed growing in my container, so we'll take that out. These lower branches look okay. Right now, if it's not shading anything out and it's not got active, you know, disease or anything on it, then I'm not worried about pruning it. And this guy needs to get woven in here. Let's see if we can just pull it around, pull it through, and let it grow up. That's basically what I've been doing to keep that going up the trellis, and it's just going to look really beautiful as it continues to fill out. Now over here is the milkweed that I need to plant. It looks so pretty. I love it in this location. So this is just a yellow milkweed. How gorgeous. I love it. I love it next to the penstemon, which is looking in its prime, and then I also love it next to these really red coleus with the yellow. I mean, that is just a great color combination. So I'm just gonna pop it in here. We do have a foxglove and a little coleus right there. I may bump that coleus forward and then put this kind of where that coleus was. All right, so let's pull a little bit of mulch aside. And I'm gonna move this coleus, getting as much of the roots as I can, although there weren't a whole lot on it. Oh my gosh, there are so many earthworms in this soil. And we should be having some rain, hopefully, tonight, which would be wonderful because we actually haven't had rain now in a couple weeks. So that would be really good. Just tease these. Trying to be as careful as I can with the mulch so that hopefully it looks kind of like it always belonged here. Although sometimes I'm not as careful as I could be. This coleus should fill up, and I'll probably prune it so it mounds right in front of this here. Oh, I love that. It looks like it always belonged there. How perfect and pretty. Yeah, it just looks like it's been there forever. That is beautiful. The goldfish are over here looking at me. They're expecting a little bit of their dinner. So we'll feed them. Let's see if they'll come up. I love this one because it's got a spot. It's got like an orange spot on his head. And these were just feeder goldfish from the store, and those are the ruby red minnows. They've gotten more and more bold. They know now when I come out to the garden that I bring food. And so I've kind of trained them to come up, which is fun because I can get a chance to see them. I like the minnows. Those are have been really cool to watch, and they're a little bit more active than the goldfish. They kind of you know, really swim quickly and dart around. The goldfish are really pretty and elegant and obviously look beautiful floating around, but the ruby red minnows just dart everywhere. And so it's kind of nice too, because they're just interesting and they give you something to look at. So the last thing I'm trying to decide about is the rat's tail radishes. I'll show you them in a second. Basically, I'm trying to decide whether or not to pull them. I was thinking, because they've already created the rat's tails, and we've harvested a few, honestly, we haven't eaten that many of the like rat's tails, the seed pods. Rat's tail radishes, if you didn't see that video, they're a radish, but you actually grow them out to bloom and let them create a seed pod, and then you harvest the seed pod. Pretty yummy, spicy, little kind of like broccoli-esque seed pod. I was going to let them just keep growing and then harvest the seeds. I don't do a lot of seed saving, but I figured maybe I would. But now they went from cottage, wonderful wild cottage, to kind of overgrown, tired, and I may just pull them. And if I want to do them again, just purchase more seeds from the seed shop, which I don't really mind doing. And they've just gotten, yeah, let me show you. They're kind of this, which is cool in its own way, but I think they're a bit tired. The echinaceas and everything are about to start blooming, so I may go, you know what, should we just do it? Should we just pull them out? Maybe we'll just pull that out now. I think I might. Oh my gosh, this is such a hard decision. I feel like at this point, they're just kind of choking things out and they don't really look that great anymore. I can't decide. My goodness. All right, that looks better. It had gone past the point of being kind of charming and whimsical and gotten a little bit crazy. And this opens up some more things for some of these other plants to bloom, and also, you know, opens up some space for the foxglove and everything. I am going to try to save some of these foxglove seeds that I have decided. I could almost pull this foxglove up into the trellis. I wonder if it's even worth it. It's producing these really pretty side shoots too. Oh, it's just such a pretty flower. I'm so sad that we're getting to the end of foxglove season, but I'm really curious, this other guy, I don't know if it's gonna bloom this year or if we're gonna have to wait till next year on that. That'll be interesting. I thought they were the same variety of foxglove. I thought they were both the Excelsior foxglove, but now I'm wondering if maybe I got something mixed up somewhere. But we'll just keep an eye on these. It'll be very interesting to see what happens. My plan with this space, when this guy is done, is probably to come back in and plant like zinnias or some other really pretty flower because the foxgloves are a biennial. I'm not going to go ahead and let them reseed themselves. I'm not going to do that, but I may start like either a first year foxglove, try some of the foxy foxglove or something else in there next year, to be determined still. I also did lighten up this tree a little bit just to leave a little air and space in there for the other plants, and I think the whole space just looks so much better. That is just such a big improvement. I am so happy with that. I think I'm actually gonna go ahead now and film a garden tour because I'm loving the way the garden looks right now. This is like the early June garden, and I just want to capture the look of all of it and highlight a few of the things that started blooming recently out here. So stay tuned for that. I'm gonna go ahead and film that now so that you can see everything because there's quite a lot going on. But anyways, thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me while I do these little chores. I will talk to you again soon. Bye bye.